Wait, oh man, I almost forgot the intro for a moment. Welcome back, Double Team to Fam. How are we doing today? Today we welcome Amy Chan, founder of Breakup Bootcamp and best-selling author. How are you?
Hello.
It's nice to meet you. I know we've spoken before, a while back, right?
On Instagram, yeah.
Yep, about making this episode happen. So here we are, talking about one of my favorite subjects.
Well, I have her book here, The Breakup Bootcamp. Love that. Well, okay, before we dive into the book, though, because I have a lot of questions about the book, can we do a few icebreakers? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious. Do you remember your first orgasm?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. You want to tell us about it?
Well, it wasn't very memorable. I think
that's okay.
I was young, and I think it was a good time.
Okay.
Wait,
Did
how
you know
young
what it
were
was?
you?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I've been masturbating since I was very young. So
Nice.
How
Yeah.
young?
I think it was pre-verbal.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay,
Because
because I was
I-
going to say, I started accidentally at around 10. So I'm always curious if people have started before,
Yeah, mine was before.
Wow.
My
Love that.
sister just makes fun of me, but yeah.
Really? Oh.
Well, between Cammie and I, she started way earlier, and then I didn't actually ever masturbate until after I started having sex. I didn't know what it was. So yeah, I think I didn't masturbate till 16, 17. And I think I had sex at 15, 16, something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I always think it's interesting to hear people's story, if they even knew what it was the first time that it happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
love it. But that is young. Wow.
I know. I just knew it was a great feeling. I'm like,
Here we are. Love that. Okay, and then my other question was going to be, what is your most favorite place you've ever had sex?
ooh, let me think. It was a trip in Mexico with my
Okay.
boyfriend, and I think it wasn't even the place. It was a really nice hotel, but it was the entire vibe. We were relaxed. We were just getting along so well. So all of those factors combined made it
Love that.
great making love section.
Hotel sex, I think, is top tier.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Vacation hotel sex is my favorite. I want to go on a vacation with a boo and just fuck the whole time.
Mainly because you don't have to clean the sheets. So you can make as much of a mess as you want. But also, I don't know. I remember my ex-husband and I, there would be times if we needed to spice things up a bit, we'd go rent a hotel room and do that. And that was always really nice. So, or we'd go on a vacation and suddenly our sex life would spike up, which was really nice. Yeah. Okay. So to dive into the book, first of all, I love the cover.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I want to know what inspired the book, what the breakup boot camp was there a really bad breakup that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So my whole life, I was dating to marry. I swear I was trying to date to marry since I was 6. And then I finally met who I thought was the one. And we were on a path to happily forever after. We had our lives planned out, and our relationship fell apart due to infidelity.
Oh,
And
sorry to hear that.
yeah, it was really rough for me because I put so much of my identity on him, us, and our future that without that, I didn't know who I was. And I went into a really dark space. I had suicidal ideation. I had crazy revenge fantasies. It was bad. And when I crawled out of that and I finally healed, I was like, what happens to those people who don't have tools or books? They don't know what to do. If I was this close to doing something destructive, what happens to them? And that's when I decided I had to create what didn't exist for me, a retreat where people could go and heal and get expert advice and be in community with other people who are grieving this huge loss in their lives.
I love that. And what do you want people to feel when they finish reading the book?
I think a lot of people going through a breakup or even a situationship that falls apart.
Yeah.
I hear a lot, I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm going crazy, and I can identify with that. I was obsessive. I just wasn't myself, and I didn't know why. And when you read the book, you understand the science behind it. You understand what's happening in the brain, the chemicals that are causing you to want to scroll their Instagram. And when you can figure those things out, you recognize this is a very normal part of the grieving process, and that there are actual tools to help you get back up, grow and move forward.
So you want people to feel as if like they're not crazy.
Yeah, and to heal, because I feel like a broken heart, it's like a weapon.
Yeah.
And if you don't heal it, you just continue to wound and hurt other people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my question is, so this very bad breakup, how old were you?
I was 29 when it happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old
Oh,
are you
wow.
now?
42.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
42.
You look great.
You look great. I thought I was like maybe 35.
33.
I was
I
like,
was
okay,
like-
this happened recently. Okay, wow.
And
29.
29 is like I mean, that's like a mature age as well.
Yeah.
To like I mean, because I think about like my breakups that happened, you know, back in like high school. And then I was like married most of my 20s. But then my marriage, when I ended at 28, like I also felt like I was going crazy. But I felt like I'm like, okay, at least I'm probably handling it with a lot more maturity than I would have like, you know, in a lot younger years. So that's interesting. And
See, for me, like, oh no, keep
No,
going. Sorry,
you
I
can go
cut
ahead.
you off.
No, no,
Okay. I was gonna say I in my 20s I wasn't in very well, not until I was about 24. Then I was like in a 4-year relationship, but prior to that, I was also saying like I wanted to date to marry. I wanted to find the one, and of course, like I was just dating not the guys that would give me that. And I felt like I was always just like, especially during breakups, like super crazy, you know, like drive by their house in the middle of the night, see if their lights are on or whatever. And then after like, but I feel like when I broke up with my ex at I was like, 27? I feel like that was like the most sane I had been from a breakup, because he and I were like states apart. But then just recently, I was in like this 6-month situationship that went hella south, and it's been the most toxic thing. And for me, like the way that like my brain, like, you know, like you said, you have like all these thoughts, you have like, you know, revenge, anger, whatever. Like, you know, I see his car and I'm like, fuck, I want to key it, but I'm not going to. And it's like all that going through, and I'm like, and yeah, I feel, I was literally just telling my friend not that long ago, because I was just like having a really bad day where I just like couldn't process anything. And I was like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And he was like, it's all in your head. You're fine. This is going to be, you know, tomorrow's a new day. You're not crazy. Like, just, you know, remember that this is just a part of the process. And I was like, yeah, well.
wait, I want to hear about some of these revenge fantasies. Do you want to?
Do you want to know what's happening in your brain though? Like,
Oh,
do you
yeah,
understand?
let's hear it.
I think I understand part of it, but let's hear more. Yes.
Yeah. So after a breakup or separation, what happens is like your brain almost goes in a withdrawal. So they've done studies where they've put newly separated people in fMRI machines, and they saw that the same part of the brain that was activated was the same part where drug users are feeding for their next fix.
Oh.
So there's a chemical kind of imbalance, and this person that you used to go to for dopamine and oxytocin, suddenly that's gone. And while you might know like, oh, it's over, it takes time for your body, your nervous system to get the memo that it's over.
Yeah.
So there's a prediction error in the brain, because there is like, well, when I call, he'll pick up, or I usually will see him on the weekend. And because that's not happening, it causes this like shock in your system constantly. And if you keep looking at their photos, or say you do stay friends, it prolongs that process.
Or they live right across from you.
That makes it tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but emphasis on the trying to stay friends part. I always say, like, even if you have like the best of intentions, like go no contact for at least like 3 to 6 months before you're like, okay, let's be friends again.
Yeah, because you're not allowing the neural pathways that are connected to this person to prune away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every single time y'all were like, let's be friends, that was not gonna work.
Isn't that crazy though? Like when you think about it, like how, you know, I don't want to say like how disconnected your brain can be like from reality, but essentially just like the way that the chemicals work, in the sense that like, you know, like in this present time, like it's over.
Yeah.
But the chemicals in your brain are like, no, where is he? Where's that dopamine hit? like the more sometimes like I think about that and I'm just like mind blown. And I'm like, why is there that disconnect, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are creatures that are meant to bond
Yeah.
and even procreate. And so all of this wiring that is in our brains is very primitive.
Yeah.
And it's like this person that I was bonded to, that was my rock of safety, my attachment figure, is now gone. And it's very jarring, and it causes people to plunge into what is called primal panic. You literally think you're going crazy and you obsess. And it can actually be harder for those short-term relationships, or even these situationships that don't have a label. Sometimes people find that is more intense than that long-term relationship.
Yeah, because there was never that security established. So then it's like you're kind of just like grasping at straws from the get-go.
Yeah,
So-
and there's all this hope that's not actualized.
Yep.
And then you end it on a peak of like intensity, that like the novelty still hasn't worn off, versus if you've been together for 10 years and it ends, like, you know what you're gonna get. You're not hitting, like, stopping it at the like peak honeymoon phase. Yeah.
Wait, how long? So for your breakup that where you were 29, how long had y'all been together?
2 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Decent amount of time.
Pretty
yeah.
good amount of time. I was in a 2-year situationship, which was shortly after I ended my engagement. Like 3 months later, I got into a situationship that was really toxic. And that was really, really difficult. And it's especially difficult like when you know, like you said, you put so much of your identity into that person. It's like, you know, I remember doing the same where it was just like all I wanted was like to, you know, I even adopted like some of his mannerisms that I still like do today. And I'm like, every single time that happens, I'm like, oh, that's him. But it's like you want them to like accept you, and it's hard when they don't. Wait, so I'm curious, like, you know, based on like the studies and, you know, your you know, like your breakup model, like how much time do you think a person should spend apart from a breakup? Like no contact or?
So ideally you can do 3 months without any contact. Of course, it's going to be hard if you have kids or share a dog. And if you have to keep in contact, or they're your neighbor, you just want to keep the interactions neutral. You don't want emotional charge, because when you go to them and you get angry and you have a fight, or you go to them to share good news because, hey, they're your friend, that keeps you attached. And it takes time. So there's like a combination of different research that says like around 90 days is when your brain starts to really rewire for new habits. But yeah, it requires some distance and time for your body to understand that this relationship in this form is over, for there to be a chance of a friendship. And I've had clients where they've been friends without a break, and it's been 2 years, and then suddenly the guy finds someone, and then my client's completely devastated, like it just happened. Yeah. Well, they never broke up.
Yeah. At least in their brain, they probably didn't. You know, in her reality or their reality, they're like, oh yeah, we're not together anymore, but we're friends. But like in the brain, it's like, oh no, I'm still getting a dopamine hit because you see their name pop up on your phone, or, you know, you get a call from them, you hear their voice. Yeah. Breakups are hard, man. Yeah. I don't like them.
I know.
So you said you went to like, you did your own retreats and stuff after that breakup?
Yeah. So I started my first breakup boot camp 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So what does that look like? What do you guys do?
So it's a 4-day retreat in nature. I bring in a team of 10 experts from psychologists, sex therapists, even dominatrix Colette. And we help people heal from the grief, process their pain, figure out tools on what to do when you are ruminating, when you have anxiety, and then really look at patterns. Because people come thinking they're there for their ex. It's never just about the ex. It's recycled pain. And if you don't understand what patterns are repeating, and I'm not talking about the type, because everyone's like, I don't have a type. There's an emotional experience that is repeating. And if you cannot figure out what that is, you cannot change it. And you will just date another person in a different package and get wounded in the exact same way.
So fun. So what's the pattern of always going after people that are not as interested in you?
Like unavailable people?
Yeah.
Like they don't want a relationship, but you go into it, you're like, oh, I want to date you. And they're like, I don't want to date you, but I like you and we can hang out and have sex. But like, I don't want to date. Like, what's that pattern? That's my pattern.
There's a few different roots of it. So one could be when we are drawn to unavailable people, and then the available people who like us, we're like, no, you're boring.
That's exactly what happened.
Unavailability, when we are drawn to these unavailable people, sometimes it is signaling that subconsciously you are unavailable. Because
I've guessed that. I'm like, maybe I'm not
as
available.
long as you're chasing or you're in pursuit of something that might not ever really fully actualize into a full relationship where someone sees you for all your flaws and you expose yourself and you're raw and you're vulnerable, it's safer.
Okay.
Because it's like, you know, the outcome.
Okay. I definitely think maybe I'm not as available. Okay. And then are there any other possibilities? I'm curious.
Well, tell me a bit more. Like what happens?
No, I just noticed that like usually that's I was actually telling this to my friend the other day. I'm like, anytime that like I'm, you know, I see a person and I'm like, oh, yep, I would date them. They're usually in a place where they're like, oh no, I don't want to date. And then the people that are like showing interest and wanting to date me and like actually like putting in the effort, I'm like, I don't want to date them. And so I'm like, why is it never the people that I want it to be? And then, but then I have at times like wondered if I am just not very available myself. But I do need to explore it more.
Yeah.
I've wondered that. But now, like I was actually saying this in a recent episode where I feel like I'm finally getting good at single, not dating.
Yeah.
I'm not great at dating. I really don't think I'm great at dating, but I'm good at, I've gotten a lot better at being single. And so I'm like trying to just like, you know, find comfort in that. But that pattern I've noticed about myself. And so sometimes I'm like, I should probably explore it a little bit more, go in and maybe see what I need to change. But
I'm curious, if you were to look at the last 3 people that you had this romantic connection or desire with, what would you say is an emotion that kept popping up? Anxiety?
Anxiety for one of them, 100%. But
You don't really get anxiety when it comes to relationships.
yeah, I don't always get anxiety. I don't get a lot of anxious. I lean more avoidant.
Okay.
I can be anxious depending on the person, but I lean more avoidant. I know that. Okay, man, I have to think about this. What is a common denominator emotion? I guess that I like them. I don't know. Let me think on that one a little bit more.
Yeah. So another thing is if you lean more towards avoidant, this is a tendency for people who have an avoidant attachment. They're really good at the courtship phase. They're really good at I like this person. I'm going to do all these things and prove and earn their love and attention and affection. And when I've got it, something kicks in. And again, it's usually subconscious of like, whoa. This is a little too intense. It's too serious. It's too much pressure. And they do what's called deactivating strategies, which are ways to almost sabotage or push the person away.
Interesting. I am good at the courting phase though. Yeah. Do I like the chase? Is that the problem? I don't know. I got to think about this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I need to explore with my therapist a little bit more. I haven't seen her in a little while. But okay, interesting. Now, what do you lean? Or what are you like?
I used to be extremely anxiously attached, codependent, and a love addict.
Okay.
Same.
So, yeah,
My
twinsies.
therapist was actually like, you should go to one of those love
Yeah.
and sex addiction meetings. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, why? But at the end of the day, like I'm very, I get very anxiously attached, codependent, like I just want to like latch on. That's always been me. And yeah, right now I'm trying to practice doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So where have you gotten to? If that was you in the past, where do you feel like you are now?
I'm now what's called an earned secure.
Okay.
Yeah. So
What
I
does that
have rewired my attachment style. And
How long did that take?
Asking for a friend.
so if you ask like psychologists, if you're actively working on it in therapy, it usually takes around 3 years.
Dope.
And it's a spectrum, right? And it also depends on who you're dating, what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm now like when I entered the relationship with my boyfriend, we've been together for 5 years now.
Oh, nice.
I had already worked a lot on my anxious attachment style because I would blow relationships up with my anxiety. And so it was less, but I was still more anxious and he's more avoidant.
Okay.
But now we are in this relationship where we're just so invested. And even though we both have habits that are like conflict, we know we're there for each other and we are committed to making it work. And so we have both become more secure.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That is the goal. Yeah. 3 years. I mean, I could see that. And it definitely does take like, you know, the self work, but also like the, you know, relationship work in the sense that like, you know, you get to kind of test out your resilience when you are in relationships.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to remind myself now is like, I'm doing the self work. And then when someone comes along, I'm like, I'm going to do things differently. And
that's how you rewire and you repattern.
Yeah.
It's in relation, right? We can read all the books and listen to the pods, and then it's like you got to go in the field and you got to practice.
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Make different choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I had a friend, you know, she was very similar to me and she said the exact same thing before. She was like, just go do the opposite. So like, for example, there's this guy that right now he fucks me so good. I love it. But I'm like, I'm not going to get attached. So I'm literally
Or addicted.
Or addicted, because I do have an addictive personality when it comes to sex. So I told myself, you know, I'm just going to do the opposite of what I normally do. And then I'm going to, you know, let him come to me, receive. I'm going to not put up walls, but like, you know, just essentially like take it hella slow. And I feel like it's been slowly working in my favor. But at least like I am like learning that like I can be, you know, resilient and strong and not let someone, you know, not attach myself to someone so easily. So
now I'm curious. So you entered the relationship. Obviously, you had been doing some work, and I don't know where he was in his work, but like when you guys entered your relationship, what did the two of you do together to kind of be like, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm at, and like how can we like grow and like build into this like secure? Like were there any specific things you guys did?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I think he always credits me of like really helping him because I do this for a living. So I can put in place tools and things that work. So one of the things is he is also more introverted and again, avoidant. And so he could be alone for a month in the forest and be totally fine. And I'm like, it's been 5 hours. I need like a hug, right? We're very different in those needs. And I know I could be very codependent. So one of the things that we've done is we have what's called Independent Thursdays. On Thursday, we do our own thing. We limit our conversation. We don't share our good news. We don't eat together. And it's on Friday, we come back and we're actually excited. We were like, oh my gosh, this happened. And it's great because it's in the calendar. He doesn't have to feel the guilt of asking for space.
Yeah.
I go ahead and make my own plan. So that's one of the systems that worked for us.
Love.
In
That's
the
great.
beginning of our relationship, I expressed to him, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I veer more anxious. These are the two things that trigger me when there's inconsistent communication or when someone doesn't initiate making plans with me. I'm not saying that this is your problem. It's something I'm actively working on, but I just want to let you know so you can kind of know like the best way like to support me.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool.
I'm
Love
the
that.
same way. Wow.
Love that.
Steal that line. You can copy and paste it.
Wait, yeah, actually, can you repeat that so
I'll
I
make
can
a
write
clip
it
of it.
down?
That's great. No, and I mean, I think I will say, even though I say I'm not great at dating, I at least have like gotten myself, or I've gotten to know myself enough to like understand some of my triggers and things. And so, yeah, sometimes when I do enter like the dating phase, like for example, recently I was hooking up with a guy and we were like spending all weekend together at this thing with our friends. And he was like asking me questions about myself and, et cetera. I think he was trying to understand like where I'm at. He was like, are you seeing anybody? I don't know if he had any interest. Maybe he did. But immediately right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, let me at least tell you like some of the things that do trigger me. Or I was like, or I didn't exactly word it in that way, but I just like let him know a few things that like I kind of need more time with. And he was like super nice and respectful about it. And that I thought, I was like, okay, that's hot. The fact that someone like heard what I said and like, actively like made an effort to like apply it. Cause I'm not big on like PDA or like touchy feely. So I would be like the opposite, in that sense. And so, yeah, it was really nice when he like listened. And so it's good to like understand those things about yourself so that you can be upfront about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, as we get older and we learn, like, that's what you should be taking away from dating, at least, so that you can go into the next relationship and be like, this is going to trigger me if you do this, just to let you know.
Yeah.
It's my thing. I got to work on it, like you said. But
and that's great that you had the positive reinforcement of, that's a vulnerable thing to share. Like, this is what triggers me and I'm working on it and I'm sharing it with you. And that they were communicating with you like a functional adult.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be. If someone is like, oh my God, gross, ick, that's not your person.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Wait, I have a question. So what was, especially like for any previous breakups after the 29 one but then before your current partner, like what's been one of your favorite like coping mechanisms to like get you like out of your head, get you moving forward and moving on?
So I would say two things. I made a commitment to myself to not chase anyone.
Receiving
and it doesn't
era love
it doesn't mean I wouldn't initiate. It didn't mean like, oh, I have to wait for them to text me. But whenever I felt the energy was one of me being the glue to hold that connection together, and this is across the board with friendships, with work opportunities, or romantic partners.
Love.
I do not, and this is now a learned habit to go against my old habit, which was put my foot on the gas pedal, is I will pause. And I won't cut them out. I won't vilify them. I'll just take a pause. I'll allow space and opportunity for them to start investing, because I think some of the times, at least for me as someone who used to be a people pleaser, overgiver, and codependent, anxious, I would just give. There's no space or opportunity for anyone to lead, initiate, or give back to me.
Yeah. And actually, and that reminds me of the 2-year-long situationship that I was in. That was like often a big fight, is I'd always be like, I'm always the one initiating, and we just lived very different lives in which like I'm a planner. Yeah. Like I love to plan. Tell me you want to fuck me, in 3 days. Like I love that. Tell me you want to go on a date with me in, next week, whatever. But he was so different. He was so like nonchalant. He was very go with the flow. I'll text you when I want to hang, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, that's two different styles to try to put together, right? And for me, like at that point, I wasn't as self-aware as I am now, and we would have that fight all the time. And I just like, and it's like I couldn't piece it together. And so, but then like I finally like was able to like see it, and like it clicked in place. And I was like, okay, we just like need to communicate more. And I need to like, instead of me always jumping on the opportunity of like, okay, let's make plans, let's do this, let's do that. Like I also just need to give him time to be able to ask me to go do this or, initiate plans. And during that time, like when there's, maybe nothing's going on, like I can just have my me time. Yeah. That took me way too long to figure out. I was like, ugh. Yeah.
I get it. I've been on the same journey.
Yeah.
Even like in the beginning with my boyfriend, he's like there was no doubt that he loved me, but my energy was like an excited puppy, like, right? Yeah. Like, so when is he going to have room to be like, let the desire build? Yeah. Like the puppy's right there all the time on your leg.
Wagging its tail.
We actually just made that like the parallel the other day, because we were kind of talking about our preferences. But anyways, and because she leans more anxious, I lean more avoidant, and I'm like, anxious is like the puppy dog, and then avoidant is like the cat. Yes. Exactly. Yes. I'm like, and we have cats and dogs, and like I know with my cats, I leave them alone.
They'll come to me.
They'll come to me, exactly. And when they do, I accept it. I give them love. With my dog, I go show him love. He's always trying to show me love, but I go, so it's interesting. Yeah. And it's funny because like, I mean, you've had the journey of going from like anxious to secure, which is beautiful. And I love that. I had the journey of anxious to secure to avoidant. So trying to go back to secure, trying to figure out how to do that. But I think, something that we like also need to like learn and recognize about ourselves is that like we can ebb and flow and change like as we go through different like seasons of dating and the people that are around us and like the energy that they bring about. And so like what you were saying about like reading the energy and understanding like how you can react to it and, changing like how you reacted to the energy. I think that's like something that everyone should take the time to do. Yeah. So, but like Cami said, sometimes it takes a while for us.
Did you have like an accountability buddy?
Oh yeah.
I didn't, but I had like what my team of advisors, right? Like in business, we have business advisors. I had my go-to people whenever I was wigging out, and they were people who were qualified to give me advice.
Love that.
Our friends love us, but a lot of the times they are projecting and they have no qualifications to give us advice. And so I'm very careful with who I get advice from.
Love that. So for example, who are some of the people on this board?
So one, her name is Patty Slawuta. She's like a brain hacker. She was usually my go-to. I have one of the coaches that teaches at Breakup Bootcamp, Trish Burles. She's a anxiety coach. She would be there for me. Yeah. And
Love
then
that.
one of my guy friends, David, who's just like a very emotionally mature man, would give me like a man's perspective.
Love that.
Yeah.
I find lately I'm trying to get more male perspective on things because usually my sounding board has always been my friends, which I think that's a great point about the projection. I hadn't really considered that. But one of my friends, she's always just like so detached from everything. She's great to go to advice for because she just always like paints it as in like, well, duh, this is what I would do. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's just a hard thing to do. But she's like, that's the easiest way. Anyways. But then lately I'm like, okay, I need to find more like guy friends that I go to. But now it's mainly my ex. And and it works. It's great. We have a list of affirmations together that we both edit and we love it. But anyways, yeah, I think it's good to get the opposite sex, their perspective as well. Have you ever had a male therapist?
I've tried it.
Okay, what were your thoughts on that? Because I've heard people say that like it's really good to, if you're a female, if you've had traditionally female therapists, to like try male therapists.
I don't have like it was not that memorable.
Okay.
I just don't remember. I didn't really connect to him, and so I've never had another male therapist.
Interesting, because that's something I've been wanting or I've been thinking about trying, and I'm like, but I've heard good reviews and some that were kind of like meh or indifferent about it. Interesting.
I have a somatic therapist.
Oh, nice.
And that's actually helped.
Great.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of times, like, well, I mean, if you're anxious, you get so in your head that, like, it's just like, I almost forget to, like, drop back into my body.
Yeah.
So now, like, going through this breakup that I've been going through, I've just decided to do like a lot of activities that involve me having to incorporate my body, like
Great.
pottery.
Great.
Which you would never think, but like it is so hard. And like especially centering that fucking clay. And you really like have to put your body into it and you have to be zoned in, and like same with rock climbing. So I've been like trying to do that, and the somatic work has helped my anxiety. Even that, yeah. So
Damn, I had a question, but I lost it. Oh, so throughout your, kind of like dating journeys or like with the people that you've worked with, what's been like your most like memorable piece of advice or quote or anything that's just like really stuck with you throughout all the years? To all of the men tuned in to DT today, we have a product for you. Or ladies, if you want to get it for your boo. If you want to support healthy blood flow to a certain area, if you know what I mean. To his...
Can you see that on YouTube?
I don't know. We got a warning, so I'm trying to keep it PG.
Yeah.
Guys, this is basically pre-workout for sexy time. So if you want your man to last longer, just have them mix in some of this with some water, some OJ, whatever. Chug it right before you get started. Have him get you ready and going. And by the time, we're 40 minutes in, he's going to be hard, firm,
full sport mode.
ready to go.
Yes. And of course, we have a promo code. Go to JoyMode. That's JoyMode.com and use code DOUBLETEAM. Again, that's double team at joymode.com for 20% off.
Let's see. Ooh, this was actually some advice from a psychic.
Oh,
Love that.
we love
We
psychics.
love psychics.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This was a while ago. I was living in New York. I was just dating a storm. And I used to, in my early like 30s, I was only dating tech entrepreneurs.
Love that.
Had a type.
Financial stability.
Yeah, and I was working in a 9 to 5. I wasn't happy with my career. I hadn't started my business yet, and I was just gunning for a guy who had status and power and money, and I just wanted to be their plus one. That was my goal.
Love that.
And I remember going to the psychic, and she's like, Amy, you need to stop prioritizing this idea that you need a man to take care of you. Financial is not what you need, it's emotional connection. So look for a guy who will give you emotional connection. And of course, I was like, ugh, whatever. Like, didn't listen to her.
Yeah.
And now I really recognize like a lot of those guys that I was pining over, chasing over, they're still doing the same thing. They're rich, but I look at their relationships and some of them are my friends. I'm like, that's not the dynamic I wanted to end up with. And I'm in a relationship now where we're equals. He runs a business, I run a business, and it's like he's so emotionally supportive, right? Like there's like this small thing I have. I'm a chronically dehydrated person.
Oh, same. My psychic told me to hydrate. That was one of the first. She was like, "Girl, you need to hydrate." I was like, "Thanks." Gonna chug water.
Yeah, and like, so my boyfriend bought me this glass water bottle, and I never fill it because I'm so lazy at the same time. And in the morning in my office, there's this water bottle, and it's always filled with water. And it's this small thing, but it is so big because it's symbolic of how he shows up in the relationship.
That is so cute. I
And
love
like
that.
just a couple weeks ago, I was watching all of my friends like in Italy and doing all these things. I'm like, why are we not in Italy? Like, why am I not getting Cartier? And like, just, and then I'm like in bed, like angry. He's sleeping. I'm just angry, ruminating. And then like I had like a sickness thing, and he was just there for me and like looking up Reddit threads on like natural concoctions for my sickness, like all of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the actual love and support that I need. I don't need a Cartier bracelet. Well, I do, but I need this stuff more.
The emotional stuff. Yeah. I love that.
That's what I say. Like, it's 2024. You know, when I see like the reel where it's like, we're not dating love, we're dating for money. I'm like, no, we're not. We don't need to date for money. Women can make their own. You know, we can all make the living that we want. It's finding a partner that meets you where you are, that has the same values and drive and like supports your nervous system.
Yes.
Doesn't make it worse. That's key right there. Find someone who supports your nervous system.
Well, I mean, like I've kind of talked about it before, I think, but like for example, in my marriage, I met my husband when I was 18. We got married around like when I was, I think, 21. So I had like just graduated college. I had nothing to my name. And and I remember like at the beginning of our relationship, I was always so self-conscious because I was like, I don't know what I bring to the table, because he was older, he was making more money than me, more established, all this thing. So I was always like so self-conscious about that, but he always like, you know, like supported me and like saw so much potential in me, like really believed in me. And then when we got married, like my career took off. Like I became the breadwinner within like 2 years of being married, like all these things. And it was always because of his support. And because like I had such like an emotionally like stable and supportive partner, like I didn't have to worry about love or like anything about my love life. Instead, I focused on my career, and like I got to put all my energy into that. And like we both, you know, supported each other, and like both of our careers really took off. And so, you know, we were the like dual income, no kids, young, like had, you know, we bought an airplane, we had house, like all of that. And so it's like, but we did that because like we could support each other. And I always say like the more that you focus on that, the more like you're both going to just like absolutely up level together. Yeah. So I think that's always really great.
Have you been seeing all that trad wife stuff?
What is that? No.
Oh my gosh. It's like flooding social media where
trad wife?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
These women are posting about how they've kind of given up trying to be like career oriented or making money, and that what you should do is learn how to be a homemaker and get like a rich husband. And it's so nuts because so I work with women who had that path,
Yeah.
but now it's 20, 30 years later.
Oh.
And what I see time and time again is these women that enter these relationships and they exchange beauty and youth and sexuality and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, it's great because
Yeah.
there's novelty and dopamine. The guy's super into her, and they're like, you don't have to work. Like, it's totally fine. And like, okay, I'm not going to do this thing. So what happens is a lot of my clients 30 years later, they never signed a really good prenup because the guy was a business guy and they had great lawyers. And I had one client where in her prenup, she would just get the furniture. And
You're kidding.
yeah, and she's allowed me to share this. So, but here she is. She's helped raise children, never built her career. He ended up having an affair with his assistant, which was 30 years younger, and kicked her out of the house. And she's like, what do I do, Amy? Like, do I go over to the house and sell the furniture on Facebook Marketplace? So like, I just really want to caution people on what they're listening to on social media. And like, this is a great time for women. We are making money and a lot of us are becoming breadwinners. And when someone is your lifeline, there are power dynamics at play.
Yeah, because then you're codependent on them. Yeah.
I mean, and
I always say I don't want that. Yeah.
And I don't mean this to sound like, because we all want to, have that romantic relationship, but you do need to like always remember in any dynamic, like have a way out. Because at the end of the day, like, you never know what the future is going to bring. You can love each other now, but you don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. So like have a backup plan.
I mean, don't get me wrong. My divorce went great, but I always say to myself, next marriage, I'm signing a prenup because otherwise your prenup is whatever the government aligns out in that state.
Exactly.
So yeah, and I don't care what my partner says. I don't care who has more money. We're signing a prenup.
Yep.
100%.
Smart.
Yeah. I'm curious, like what, for example, when you were in your 20s versus like where you are now, like what are the differences in like where, like, relationship wise, where are you and like where did you think you would be? Because like I think a lot to like my early 20s, like where I thought I'd be at, I'm 30 now, but like where I thought I'd be now, like relationship wise, is definitely not where I am. It looks a lot different. And so I'm curious, like what did you think it would look like versus what does it look like now?
What a great question. In my 20s, I only dated DJs and club owners.
I see a trend. There was the tech guy era, the DJ club owner era. Okay.
Right. But the emotional experience was, and then before I did any of the work, I was like, there's no pattern here. But the emotional experience was exactly the same. I was pining over people who are in these positions of power. The DJ is in a booth elevated, right?
And like, I want to be behind the booth. Yeah.
And like, I'm always like trying to earn their enough attention and feel special if they chose me.
Yeah.
And so I think what's really different now is there's something that happens in your 40s, which I was not prepared for. And
Wait, what is it?
you will experience the death of a loved one. You will experience health issues that will start to come. And what really matters.
I'm experiencing that now.
Oh, yeah. and of course some people, but like I know for me, like I was invincible in my 30s. I was like, nothing. And now having gone through that, like I lost my father last year. It was really hard.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I've dealt with so many hard life things that just knocked me over. And I have a partner who will show up for me. And all of those other things that I used to care about so much, the brand of clothes they wore, like height, like swag, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it comes to a long-term relationship. Who the hell is going to be there and hold your hand in the hospital and be there for you, even though it's so uncomfortable? That's what you want to optimize for. And I think it's also in friends.
Yeah. I love that. It actually reminds me of some advice that I had gotten from this lady at our dog park. She's older than we. How old is she? She's 50s, 60s? somewhere in that range, 50s, I think. Anyways, no, she's 52. Anyways, and I was telling her how I had a little crush on this guy, and basically what I had said was that like he's not my normal type. Normally I go for like tall, muscly, like big dudes, blonde hair, blue eyed. That's been like my type for like a few years now, and which is funny because my husband, he's tall. And my ex-husband. Anyways, so I was telling her that I was going for this guy who was like outside my normal type. But when I had first met this guy, I was just like sitting there and I was like, oh, I really want a pizza. And right away, he just like ordered a pizza on the spot. And I thought it was the sweetest thing. Just like immediately like, oh, is that what you want? I got it taken care of. Pizza came. He asked me what I wanted. And I was like, everything. And it was just such a nice gesture for someone I had just met. And like, of course, like it sparked some interest. And I really liked him when we got to hang out a little bit more. And I liked him even more. And I just remember I was telling her, I was like, all these things, but like, he's just not my normal type. And she was like, let me tell you one thing. She was like, when they're, 50, 60, like the muscles aren't going to stay, like your skin starts to sag, like things look different, you even lose a couple inches the older you get, like height wise, all of that. She was like, what matters is how they make you feel at the end of the day and how they show up for you and the kind of partner that they are. And so I really took that to heart when she said it. And I do think it's great advice, but yeah, I mean, I think about like when I was younger, I thought I would be like still married at 30 and, all these things. And now like what I'm looking for is like so different and like refined based on like all the lessons that I've learned. And a lot of it does have to do with like, yes, you want physical attraction and you want great sex and you want things that feel passionate and all of that. But like at the end of the day, like you also want your best friend and you want to feel supported. Yeah. And I did have that with my ex-husband. Like that was the one thing that I loved the most. And he set that bar. And I tell him that all the time. I was like, you set the bar in terms of like what I'm looking for in support from a partner. So
I truly believe that the way we should be dating, if it's actually like a long-term partnership, is optimize for the best friend you want to fuck.
Love that. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Optimize for the best friend you want to fuck.
What I'm trying to practice right now in dating, it's like everyone's a friend until proven otherwise.
Nice.
It's like everyone's a friend until they tell me they want more. Like I mean, and I, of course, like you said, like I will initiate, I will support, but I also like I need them to also give me something back. So it's just like you're a friend until it's known that it's gonna move forward. So.
That's such a great approach for you, and like you're just so wise because like seriously, because another thing what that does is it takes away this pressure and this judgment that we have when we're dating, when we're optimizing, like, are you the one? Are you gonna be my future baby daddy? Mm-hmm. And then they say the wrong thing, or they wear the wrong shoes, or they take you to the wrong restaurant, and you're like, oh, you're out. You're not in that bucket. Yeah. Whereas like if we're friends, yes, there's tension, there's attraction, we're so much less judgmental. And the love and the bonding and the connection, it's not gonna grow in this environment where you're screening them and just looking for opportunities to dismiss them.
No, that's true.
Or just opportunities to attach, even though they show really bad signs of not needing to attach.
Yeah, like not getting attached
that I
have.
Yeah.
So. I was actually thinking about that not long ago where I was like, I think about my friendships and how they grew. And, with a lot of my friends, did we text every day? No. Did we hang out 24/7? No. And then what were the things that like fostered the relationship? And a lot of times it's like consistency over the years and getting vulnerable and showing up for each other and all those things without sex on the table, obviously, because they're your friends, And so when I realized that, I was like, it kind of made me think, kind of like what you said, treat it like a friendship almost, where it's like, if your best friend did this, like, would you freak out? Probably not. You're just, freaking out because like of all the romantic attachments and all of that. And so I've been trying to practice some of that as well. And it has helped,
Ooh, I have a question for you. What do you think is stronger, romantic or platonic love?
Oh, we talked about this in an episode once.
Platonic love lasts.
That's what I think too.
There's actually like science behind it. You want me to explain?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go into the science.
We love science.
Yeah. So there's two main stages of this relationship journey, and if you don't know it, you might sabotage your relationship.
Okay, good to know.
So the first stage is the romantic stage. This is when there's a lot of dopamine, because dopamine motivates you to get more of whatever feels good and whatever is new. And in this beginning stage, you don't know about the person, you don't know about future plans. There's all this possibility. So it's dopamine, it's exciting. You want to rip their clothes off. This stage lasts on average between 12 to 18 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It then moves into the second stage, which is companionate love. And the chemicals here at play are what's called the here and now chemicals: oxytocin, vasopressin. These are the chemicals that make you present and appreciate what you've got. These chemicals suppress dopamine. You already have a routine. You know you're gonna see each other on weekend, what you're gonna have for dinner. So this like, oh my gosh, like I don't know this mystery. It's not there. So you're not gonna have that feeling of like they walk in the door and you wanna rip their clothes off.
Yeah.
Now, people who don't know this think that once they enter the companionate stage of love, they are like, oh my gosh, it's gone. The butterflies are gone. And they'll say things like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And they will toss the relationship out.
Yeah.
And it's just really a shame, because this is just a natural progression and evolution of the relationship, and Mother Nature just isn't going to do the work for you anymore.
Yeah.
You have to then build the skills to cultivate intimacy, to keep it interesting, to deepen your sexual relationship instead of just throwing it out.
Yeah.
I wonder how, like, evolution wise, how do we get to this point? Like, what happened over time for us to go from like whatever, I don't even know what it was before, to the point where now we're like dopamine for 18 months and then oxytocin, you know, like what happened? I really want to know.
Yeah.
What did it used to be like?
Wait, then what are the chemicals for friendship?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's still like dopamine and oxytocin. That like even when you have a conversation, like right now we're having a conversation, we're all self-disclosing, so we're getting dopamine. But
Is
we're
that
not
why I'm always so happy after recording?
probably.
Oh, I
The
love
dopamine
that.
hit. Fuck yeah.
But you know, what's really interesting is to know this when it comes to dates.
Okay.
Because if you go on a date, and I think you guys, because you're podcasters and you're very curious, you've probably really built a skill of like asking questions. And so after someone goes on a date with you, they might be like, oh my God, like that was amazing. That was so fun. And you're like, I felt no connection because you were so like, tell me more. And they're like going off. Well, they got the feel-good chemicals and you didn't. And you're like, I don't want to see this person again.
Wait.
You know, that's
whoa,
so-
whoa, 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 wait. You might actually be onto something there.
No, but it's true.
Because that's happened to
Because a
me
lot of the
so many
It's like,
times.
you know, when I go on a date, like I know exactly how to perform. And I'm not saying perform in a bad way. Like I'm about to like put on a whole new bitch for this person. No, I mean like I know how to keep it interesting. I know how to ask questions. I know how to listen. I know how to engage. Like all these things. And it's like,
It's our
put
job.
me, exactly. It's my job. Put me in front of someone who doesn't know how to do that. I'm like, ask a motherfucking question.
You've built
Or
the
this is
skill.
about to be an interview on you. Like I need
Exactly.
like
I'm not
the
getting ad
reciprocation.
income from this date where you're just jabbering, right? Like, yeah. I know.
Wait, but keep going. So we were talking about in platonic relationships, the chemicals are the same, but I'm assuming like slower and more.
I don't know if it's like about slowness or fastness, but we generally have a primary attachment figure, right? So when you look at attachment theory, when you were a child, that attachment figure was a primary caregiver, say mother, grandparent, whatever that was. When we grow older, our attachment figure goes to the person we are romantically involved with. That's who we bond with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not having that same type of bonding with, 7 of our friends. Yeah.
Okay.
So who's that attachment figure for us? If we're single at 30, who is our primary attachment figure? I don't know either. I got to think about that. Hopefully not each other. Now, my question was going to be, okay, so you've written the book, you do the boot camps. What what do you see for like the future of your dating expertise?
Yeah. So now I'm running dating boot camps, helping people with dating. And
Oh, so you went from breakup boot camps to dating boot camps.
yeah, so now I'm doing both.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Love that. And what is the difference? Okay, well, I guess, one's breakup, one's dating.
Different stages.
Okay,
I see
so
breakups as the beginning.
Oh.
Oh, it's kind of like the menstrual cycle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The period is actually the beginning. It's not the end like people think.
That's a good point. And then for the dating boot camps, do you have like a different set of people that come in versus the breakup?
Same team, but the material's different. So they will learn everything from like, how do you decode nonverbal signals? How do you know what your impact is on everyone? So for example, everyone has the option of sending this survey to 10 people. It could be their exes, friends, whomever. And it is an assessment of themselves. So like one of the questions would be, in a conversation with me, do I talk too much? In a conversation with me, do you feel like I'm present? And then there's other questions where it's like, what do you think are my blind spots? And then the person actually fills it out so that we could see, is there a gap in what you think of yourself and how you come across and how people are actually experiencing you?
Yeah, because perception is huge. And some people are not self-aware. I also can I get this survey?
I was going to say, can I get this? I would love to give this survey. I know exactly who I'd give it to. I have a few, I'm not going to say their names anyways, but I have a few people in mind. I would love this survey. And actually, maybe I should do this dating boot camp because I don't know that I'm great at dating. But it's funny you say that because the other day, this one guy, it was one that I had mentioned earlier in a different story. But anyways, and I told him, I'm like, I'm super avoidant. I can kind of come across as like, I have a bit of a fortress to get through all of this. And he was like, I actually disagree. You come off really secure. And I was like, am I growing? Am I entering my secure era? Because I would love that. But it was just really nice to hear that because I was like, oh, I literally told him, I was like, maybe I'm not as cold as I think I come across, which at times I can. But I mean, for me, I also recognize that it really depends on the person because like, but anyways, but yeah, perception can be huge. I would love to know how people perceive me. I probably do talk too much.
I was at a club once and I went to go get water and then I went and sat down and one of my friends comes up and he was like, and I was just chilling there, in my own space and, I'm always like in my head, tumultuous thoughts, whatever. And he was like, he comes up to me and he was like, you're just so like nonchalant and carefree. He's like, you always just look like so unbothered. And I'm like, yeah, because it's all up here, dude. You're not going to see it unless I'm crying. But like, because that will happen. But it was just so funny that he was like, yeah, you just seem so unbothered. And I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that's what I'm giving off because that's not what's happening internally. But
what do you hope you give off for yourself? Like, how do you hope people perceive you?
Yeah.
That I am present and compassionate and curious and that I care.
Love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
As feedback, you come off very smart. And also, yeah, very attentive and like really like present. So you're on the right track.
I appreciate it. I wasn't like this before.
Oh, really?
At all. No.
No, I mean, well, self-work. That's how we get there.
Well, I feel like anxious people, we do have a hard time being present. Because it's like just one little thing could just like send you back 2 years to that one specific memory. And then you're like, wow. And then it's,
Yeah.
But I don't know if avoidant does that, but I know I do.
I think we also have to be like, when I'm listening to you talk, like we might behave in a way that looks like avoidant or anxious. That doesn't necessarily mean you have that style, right? Like I know for me, when I was very anxious, I would call a bunch of times. This was in my 20s, like show up at the club and be like, oh my God, you're working tonight? He's like, yeah, Amy, every Saturday night, it's my night. It's got my name on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then like, after a while, I'm like, okay, I'm creepy. I might be considered a stalker. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to like be cold. I'm going to calculate the days it takes for me to call back and text back. And on the outside, it looked like I'm an avoidant, but I was just an anxious masquerading as an avoidant.
That's so fun.
And if you date someone who's unreliable and they don't follow through and you feel anxiety, that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, you have an anxious attachment style. It means that you are reacting to someone who is unpredictable and you don't feel safe with.
Yeah.
Oh, I learned that. I had that recently happen. There was a guy, anyways, met him back in December, and I was like freaking the fuck out half the time. And then I was like, oh my God, am I anxious now? Because I was not happy about that news. And then I think it was Therapy Jeff. He had a TikTok where he was saying, he was like, are you anxious or are they just not meeting your needs? And then he like listed a bunch of these things of like them not meeting your needs. And I'm like, oh, I'm not anxious. They are not meeting my needs. Oh, whew, off my back. You know, so yeah, yeah. But this is like, I mean, I love this kind of stuff and I get it. Kimmy and I are super introspective and we dissect everything about like what we do, what we think, what we, you know, and so I feel like because of that, we're like always growing and evolving and like really just kind of like getting to know ourselves. But sometimes like it's nice, like when we talk, especially to people that are also seem to be very like self-aware and very knowledgeable about like all the things that our bodies and our minds can go through. Because at least for me, it's like a good sounding board. So thank you for everything that you said today.
I was just going to say, this was a confirmation that I am doing the right work. This conversation just reminded me that I am doing the correct work and moving forward. And like, I will work my way to secure attachment with the right partner and all that. Yep.
Yeah. And even if you don't become secure, you still have a very great shot at creating a wonderful partnership with someone. Like in this, like, I feel like we've pathologized attachment styles so much. And it's like, oh my God, well, I can only date a secure person. No, like we are all flawed. We all have wounds. If it's not attachment style, it's this thing. It's like you got neglected here, whatever it is. And then there's a new trauma that comes you have to heal from. Like, but when we are in relation with people who we trust, who will stick around, who are invested in growing with you, you can grow and heal those things. And it's not going to be perfect.
But it is going to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that is like the beauty of relationships too, is that like, especially, you know, when you are with someone for a long time and you both are really committed to making it work, no matter how you enter it, like, you know, kind of like what you were saying about, you know, you entered maybe more anxious than avoidant or whatever. And then like you've become more secure. Like it was very much the same way, like in my marriage, like the way we entered it was very different than the way we were throughout the relationship or left it, because if you're both really committed to growing together, you are going to like get to a place of like finding peace, finding what works for you, finding, you know, connection and balance in like all the areas of your relationship. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, like the commitment that you have with someone is what's going to like, again, kind of like we were talking about earlier, not just financially, but emotionally kind of like pull you up and pull you to a place where like you feel good. So, but I do agree. I think sometimes we do kind of focus a little bit too much on like attachment styles and traumas and all of this. And like, and as much as I love that work and like getting to understand it and everything, I also like recognize that like at the end of the day, like, you know, each connection is going to be so different and nuanced that like the best thing that you can do is like, how do you operate with that person? Like understanding like just how you're reacting to them, how they're reacting to you, how you're, you know, what you're bringing out of each other, all of that, because that can change so much. Despite our patterns, or even triggering our patterns, you know, so like whatever it is, like take each connection as like an individual thing and like understand it for what it is. Cause like I think about some of my friends and I'm like so different with some of them than I am with others, you know, and sometimes like when I look at that, then I see myself like in different lights. And I think that can be really powerful work too. Yeah. I love it. This has been a great conversation.
If they gave you chest pain, leave. That's sorry. That's my motto.
I want to know, when's your next dating boot camp? Maybe I should do one of these.
I mean, it's literally on Friday. You want to come?
I can't make Friday. But when's the next one after that?
I haven't planned it yet.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. Can you keep me posted?
I will.
And then is there going to be a dating boot camp book?
I'm working on my second book. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. I haven't figured out the title yet. They want me to do dating boot camp, but I don't know.
I love that because it's very on brand with breakup boot camp.
Yeah.
Okay. Dating boot camp is good. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And wait, I actually had a question. Now, this is going to be a personal question.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Okay, but you've been with your partner for 5 years now. Do you want to get married?
Oh, yeah.
Do you, like, what do you hope for the future of your relationship? Because, like, as soon as you said that, I always have said that like, okay, if it's like past 3 to 5 years and you're still not married, maybe there's an issue. But it sounds like you guys have a great, healthy relationship. So I would love to like,
well, everyone's
work.
different, Nikki.
I know
couples that got married after like 7 to 10 years.
I guess like, but that's what I'm saying. Like my pattern is, you know, if I, at least in my marriage, for example, after 2-3 years, I was like, yep, we're good. We've checked all the boxes. We spent 2 of each season together. Let's go. You know, and I'm the kind of person that likes to move quicker in relationships. So when I hear of other people that have done things differently and still working for them, I'm like, I want to know more. So I'd love to hear
I
more.
think before this relationship, I was very focused on these rules of like labels and marriage and timeline and children. And I'm so secure in this relationship that sure, I'll get married. We'll have a party. Probably won't do a church or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's not this like, I need it for me to feel like we've made movement or that this is going to solidify the relationship. And yeah, we've had a conversation. We'll likely do it at some point.
Love that.
And even going in, I thought, I'm like, yeah, one day I'll have children. I don't know if I want children. I have some eggs frozen, and we discussed like, let's not have children out of fear. And if we want to have children naturally, and that time comes, we will look at options. If we can't, then we will adopt. There are other options out there. And I think that's really helpful because I know a lot of people who are dating, there's timelines, right? And we are women, right? Like, and when we put scarcity and timelines, it can really mess up our decision making. And it can create a lot of pressure and disappointment. And if you can be open to possibilities of different plans of getting kind of what you want, but maybe it's not in the way that you expected it to be or you dreamed of, but you would be okay with it, then I think that that will be helpful.
I love that.
I think, yeah, you're completely right. I just let it happen and flow, and what's meant to happen will happen. So not put timelines on it.
I like the no titles thing either. Or like because like I loved my marriage and it was great. But sometimes like, you know, when I think about my next marriage, I'm like, I don't need the piece of paper, you know, because at the end of the day, the piece of paper was never, I mean, it was symbolic, yes. But, you know, it wasn't like necessary for the connection to like thrive and continue and like to have that commitment. Like that's going to come from like the effort that you both put in. So while all the legalities and all of that and titles and such can be great, at the end of the day, like there are just those things, and like the connection is gonna drive where the relationship will go. But anyways, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
This has been phenomenal.
It was. I had a blast. I definitely want to take your dating boot camp to see what it's like.
I
I
know.
would have taken your breakup boot camp, but I feel like I'm past the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm good now.
So where can people find you if you'd like to plug yourself?
Yeah. On Instagram, I'm at Miss Amy Chan. My book's called Breakup Boot Camp, and my website is renewbreakupbootcamp.com.
I
Love that.
Yep.
Awesome.
I'm gonna read the book. I want to read the book.
Is it on Amazon?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Nobles,
everywhere. Yeah.
Love that.
all
Okay.
publishing platforms.
I don't have any. Well, I was like, do I have any recent breakups that I need to? But it's so like I've been kind of like reading through a few things here and there, and I'm like, oh, this looks.
There's
really
definitely stuff not just about breakups.
Okay,
Yeah.
love
because
that.
it's about patterns.
There's a lot of exercises in here, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's dope.
That's what I like.
Yeah,
I like the exercises, like something to like,
to do.
yeah.
Amazing.
Rather than just like, oh, get over it. You know, it's like, no, here, do this.
Yeah.
That's what I need. That's an Aries rising. So, yeah.
And you guys know where to find us. DoubleTeamPodcast.com has all relevant links at Double Team Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, or at Kimmy and Nikki. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep.
Thank you again.
Bye.